These deep dives always get me a little, excited.
Oh, I bet.
But today's topic, cryogenic logistics, really has me intrigued.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, after looking over this article from XRT Logistics,
Uh-huh.
I can't stop thinking about it.
What is it about it?
It's just, like, how do they even transport something like liquid nitrogen?
Right.
You can't just, stick it in a cooler and hope for the best.
No, not quite.
Or,
Definitely not your average delivery service.
no, not at all. So what I find really interesting is,
What's that?
well, the article mentions that we encounter cryogenic logistics way more often than we realize.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it's practically everywhere, but we just don't see it.
Yeah, it's the behind-the-scenes force in a lot of things we take for granted.
Yeah, like...
Healthcare, for one.
Oh, right, of course.
And how about the energy that powers our homes?
Wow, I never really made that connection.
It's all thanks to cryogenic logistics.
It's incredible when you think about it.
It is, isn't it?
And we're talking about transporting things at, insanely low temperatures here.
You got it.
Yeah.
We're talking colder than a polar bear taking a dip in the Arctic.
Ah, that's a good one.
Right.
Yeah, it paints a pretty vivid picture.
Trying to make it relatable, you know?
And it's not just some, sci-fi concept either.
Not at all. This is as real world as it gets.
So let's break it down. What are we talking about here?
So basically, cryogenic logistics is all about transporting and handling stuff, materials, things, you name it. But here's the catch. It has to be at these incredibly low temperatures.
Okay, and we're mainly talking about these, what are they called? Liquefied gases, right?
Yeah. Nitrogen, oxygen, LNG. They're the big players.
And these gases are essential for a bunch of different industries, right?
Exactly. They're everywhere.
Okay, so we've got these essential gases, and they need to be transported at these, crazy low temps.
Right.
So what kind of high-tech gear are we talking about here? I can't imagine they're using your average delivery trucks.
You're right on the money. We're talking about these specialized cryogenic tankers.
Cryogenic tankers.
Yeah, think of them like giant high-tech thermoses.
Okay, I kind of see where you're going with that.
But instead of keeping your coffee warm, they keep things incredibly cold.
That's a while.
And these tankers are seriously heavy-duty.
Oh, so.
Well, they have to be. We're talking heavy insulation to maintain those low temps, even on long hauls.
Makes sense.
And they have to withstand incredible pressure, too. Safety is paramount.
And what about international shipping? Are these tankers just, hopping on cargo ships?
Good question. For overseas travel, we rely on ISO tanks.
ISO tanks.
Yeah, they're like the shipping containers of the cryogenic world.
Okay, that makes sense.
Built to international standards, but with the added challenge of extreme temperature control.
So they're basically high-tech, super-cooled shipping containers.
A pretty accurate way to put it. They're crucial for the global supply chain of these gases.
It's mind-boggling to think about these materials traveling across oceans while staying frozen.
It's like a carefully orchestrated symphony of logistics and engineering, all to keep things at the right temperature.
And we can't forget about what happens when these shipments reach their destination right now.
You're right, we can't. That's where cryogenic storage systems come in.
So, what are we picturing here?
Picture high security, super chilled warehouses, all designed to keep those materials stable until they're needed.
Like different temperatures for different gases.
Precisely. Different gases, different needs, different temperature zones. It's all about precision.
The article does a great job of illustrating this with a real-life example.
Oh, yeah, the medical facility?
Yeah, the one with the liquid nitrogen.
They needed to maintain a constant Magnan 196 degrees Celsius.
It's honestly hard to grasp how cold that actually is.
It gives me the chills just thinking about it, and not in a good way.
Right. And that's what I find so compelling about cryogenic logistics.
That's
It's easy to get caught up in all the technical stuff. The tankers, the storage, the temperature.
right.
But at the end of the day, this is about real-world impact.
Absolutely.
We're talking about things that directly affect our lives, from medical procedures to the energy we use.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And because the stakes are so high.
You mean because of the temperatures?
Well, yes, but also because of what these gases are used for.
Okay, I'm with you.
Safety becomes absolutely paramount. We can't afford to mess around.
Right. One wrong move and things could go south really quickly.
Exactly.
And the article really drives that point home with all the regulations and guidelines they talk about.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you're dealing with potentially dangerous stuff here.
Right. It's not like transporting, pillows.
Not even close. This is serious business. So you've got agencies like the DOT.
The Department of Transportation, right?
Yeah, they're all over it,
Yeah.
making sure these materials are transported safely across state lines. No room for error.
And then you've got the IMDG code for international shipping.
Exactly. International Maritime Dangerous Goods Code keeps things in line on the open seas.
It's a lot to keep track of, all these acronyms and regulations.
It can be. And we can't forget about the EPA either. They're making sure this whole process doesn't turn into an environmental disaster.
Of course, the EPA always has to be involved.
Rightfully so. And it's not just about the regulations themselves, it's about the people handling these materials too. The operators in cryogenic logistics. They go through some intense training.
Really? Like, what kind of training are we talking about?
We're talking rigorous certification processes, specialized skills. It's like the special forces of logistics.
Wow, special forces. That's intense. They must be the best of the best.
Only the best can handle these materials safely and efficiently. But, hey, speaking of essential industries,
Yeah.
we got to talk about the energy sector. Cryogenic logistics is huge
Oh,
there.
absolutely, especially with LNG, right? Liquid natural gas.
You got to LNG is everywhere these days. It's a major player in the global energy market.
It seems like every day there's a new headline about the LNG market booming.
And for good reason. It's a vital energy source. But none of it would be possible without cryogenic logistics.
That's right. Is how we get LNG from point A to point B.
Exactly. From production facilities, sometimes in the middle of nowhere, to consumers all over the world. It's the backbone of the entire LNG supply chain.
It's like we talk about alternative energy sources. And LNG is often part of that conversation.
For sure, LNG is often seen as a cleaner alternative to traditional fossil fuels.
But without cryogenic logistics, LNG wouldn't even be an option.
You hit the nail on the head. It's the unsung hero of the LNG boom. And the article actually gives a really interesting example.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
They talk about this renewable energy project in the U.S. needed a huge amount of LNG to power their operations.
Wow, that must have been a logistical challenge.
You bet it was. But they turned to cryogenic logistics providers, and they got the job done.
It just goes to show how important this technology is for the future of energy.
Especially as we shift towards more sustainable solutions. Like you said, cryogenic logistics is powering the future, literally.
It's amazing. But you mentioned something earlier about the benefits of cryogenic logistics going beyond just temperature control.
I did, didn't I? It's not just about keeping things cold. It's about so much more.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, for one, it plays a crucial role in facilitating global trade.
Global trade.
How so?
Think about it. We live in a globally connected world,
More
right?
connected than ever.
Exactly. And supply chains are stretching across continents.
To get us everything we need.
Precisely. Cryogenic logistics makes it possible to transport those essential gases and materials all over the world, keeping industries running smoothly.
It's like the invisible thread that holds the global economy together.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And in today's world where everyone wants everything instantly.
Instant gratification, right?
Exactly. Cryogenic logistics offers real-time tracking capabilities. Oh, that's cool. You can actually see where your supercooled liquid nitrogen is at any given moment.
Yep. No more wondering, where in the world is my shipment? It's all trackable, providing a level of control and peace of mind that's essential in this industry.
That makes a lot of sense, especially with such valuable and sometimes dangerous cargo.
Absolutely. But of course, even with all these advancements, there are still challenges.
Oh, I bet. What are some of the biggest hurdles they face?
Well, maintaining those sub-zero temperatures throughout the entire journey is always a challenge.
It sounds like a delicate balancing act.
It really is. Any fluctuation in temperature can cause problems.
What kind of problems?
Well, if the temperature rises too much, those liquefied gases can start to turn back into gas.
Oh, right. Makes sense. It's all about pressure, isn't it?
Exactly. And that can lead to a whole host of logistical and safety issues.
And those issues can be, well, pretty serious, right?
Absolutely. We're talking potential safety hazards, not to mention the logistical nightmare of dealing with a shipment that's no longer in the right state.
So how do they do it then? How do they mitigate those risks and make sure everything goes smoothly despite the challenges?
It all comes back to those specialized containers and storage systems we talked about.
Right. The super thermoses and high-tech warehouses.
Exactly. They're not just built for show. They're engineered with multiple layers of insulation and some seriously sophisticated pressure control mechanisms.
So it's like they've thought of everything, every possible thing that could go wrong, and designed a solution for it.
Pretty much. It's all about maintaining a stable environment no matter what's happening outside.
It's really incredible when you think about it. All this engineering and technology goes into something that most people probably never even give a second thought.
It's the invisible backbone of so many industries, you know. But it makes you wonder, With all this talk about the booming LNG market and these high-tech solutions, what's next for cryogenic
That's
logistics?
the million-dollar question, isn't it? Where do we go from here?
Right. It's like the article got me thinking we're seeing this surge in LNG production.
Which makes sense, given the global energy demand.
Absolutely. But at the same time, there's this big push for cleaner, more sustainable energy solutions.
So where does that leave LNG in the long run? And what about the technology that makes it all possible?
It's like a paradox, right?
Totally. We're relying on a technology so closely tied to fossil fuels.
To support the transition to renewable energy sources, yeah, it's a strange in-between phase, for sure. But here's where things get really interesting. What if cryogenic logistics could play a role in transporting other types of energy sources?
Okay, now you've got my attention. Like what, for instance?
Well, what about hydrogen?
Hydrogen. I've heard that's a promising clean energy source. But how does cryogenic logistics fit in?
Well, hydrogen, especially in its liquid form, has to be stored and transported at extremely low temperatures.
So not that different from what we've been discussing with LNG.
Precisely. It's like the same principles, just applied to a different energy source.
So cryogenic logistics could actually hold the key to unlocking hydrogen's full potential as a clean fuel.
It's definitely within the realm of possibility. It could be a game changer for the future of energy.
This is blowing my mind. And if we really want to go there, way out there, what about space exploration?
Space exploration. Now we're talking about the future.
I mean, it sounds crazy, but could cryogenic logistics play a role there too?
It might sound like science fiction, but think about it. Transporting materials in the extreme cold of space.
That's not that different from the challenges cryogenic logistics already tackles here on Earth, is it?
Exactly. The expertise and technology developed for this industry, it could be incredibly valuable as we venture further into the cosmos.
This deep dive has been full of surprises. We've gone from understanding how hospitals get the gases they need for life-saving procedures to talking about the future of energy and even space exploration.
It's all connected, isn't it? It just goes to show that sometimes the most overlooked industries are the ones with the most potential to change the world as we know it.
It really makes you think. This has been an incredible deep dive. I've learned so much about a topic I knew next to nothing about, and it's clear that cryogenic logistics is a field with a pretty exciting future ahead of it.
Definitely one to watch. You've done your research and now you're ahead of the curve. Who knows what innovations and advancements are just around the corner?